we've got every camera bag we can imagine here, and we've got space to build any bag that we want. And there wasn't anything in market that was going to help us carry all those little parts, take care of problems that we have in the field when we crash or when something just goes wrong. And that's why we came up with these bags that do things differently.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 65. Have you ever wondered how new products for drones are developed? Well, today we get a glimpse into that process by hearing from two LowePro Company product designers that recently developed a new line of drone carrying bags. Quehl and Ian Hughes are recreational drone pilots and product designers at LowePro. What started as a hobby quickly turned into a quest to produce the newest line of travel bags. They're here to talk about the design process, how their interest in drones resulted in a new product that others can use, and the unique features in the bags that drone users should appreciate. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Louis and Ian to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Quehl. I'm Director of Product Design here at LowePro. That means I get to spend a lot of time designing bags for photographers, for drones, and drawing and building and making, and I get to spend a lot of time with Ian and the team here.
I'm Ian Hughes, Product Designer at LowePro. Spend a lot of time drawing digitally and sketching and building bags and cutting them out and sewing them, and a lot of time flying drones and taking photographs.
For those that aren't familiar, can you tell us about LowePro?
LowePro is a long-lived brand. We've been around since back in the day when Greg Lowe was trying to get camera gear up a mountain. He actually started out making just sort of internal frame backpacks and moved on from there to many great innovations and started the company that later became LowePro. So we've been doing this for, 40 plus years in the camera space, helping photographers get to mountains, to Antarctica, to really every part of the world, which is one of the most satisfying parts of the work that we do, is knowing that people are out there using our gear and we're helping them take the things that they care about to all these wonderful places in the world. And that's led us recently to the drone space, starting out in imaging drones. We're actually looking at the racing drones now too, because they're just so much fun.
Is it fair to say that LowePro produces travel bags for the adventurer traveler?
I would say that we are really great in that we kind of span that space. We have the Trekker series that are true hardcore outdoor grand adventures, and we still have series like our Photosport, even down to a Tahoe, that are just for everybody in their own situations. And we do a lot of studio bags too, so we've got things from Magnum to our Tactic series, which is more of a urban photographer bag. So we've got a lot of different locations and places that people take the gear, but really what we're focused on is helping people travel with that gear. And that's everyday travel and worldwide adventure traveling.
Before LowePro entered the drone space, what was their primary market?
There's no doubt that LowePro, we're really established in the photo space. We're really, really proud of the work that we've done in that core space. And while we're looking at the drone space and looking to grow in the ways that we can for those users, we are still very focused on that camera user.
So let's talk about LowePro's entry into the drone market.
The first ones that we took on were the imaging drones, and that was just an obvious next step for us. We could see that from the start of digital photography over into action cameras and then into the drone space. This is all about the person who wants to tell a story and they want to get a new perspective. So same way that the action camera was a great way to put the image capture on the body, the drone was a way to get a new view on everything. So you could go up and fly over somebody. Obviously, we know everything that you can do with the drones. It's so amazing how robust they are and all these great things. But for us, it was just the next step. It wasn't even almost a question of whether or not we would. It was just something that was important to us. So we wanted to be able to carry the Phantom, the 3DR Solo, all these great imaging machines out to new places that you can't take them with just a box.
What makes LowePro's bag different than what's currently out there?
Oh, there's so much that's different about the solutions that we've come up with, and particularly Ian has come up with. I think the key difference, and Ian's going to feel free to jump in here, I hope, is that we really are focused on helping people get their stuff to new places that are just not that easy to get to if you're carrying things in a box or in a bag that's not intended for this purpose. So, we say in our little explainer of the QuadGuard series that it wasn't enough to take a camera bag and just repurpose it for these machines. It's really true. I mean, we started flying racing drones. How long ago did we start, Ian?
Probably a year and a half ago.
Yeah, not that long ago. I don't know how old the sport is, to be honest, but it's not super old, and we've been doing it for a little while. And Ian and Noah here in the office as well are much more racers than I am. I'm probably more of an entry-level flyer, but the reason that we wanted to make these bags is we've got every camera bag we can imagine here, and we've got space to build any bag that we want, and there wasn't anything in market that was going to help us carry all those little parts, take care of problems that we have in the field when we crash or when something just goes wrong. And that's why we came up with these bags that do things differently. So, Ian, you want to talk us through a little bit what is going on in feature set or even in just the series overall that's special in the drone
Sure.
space?
Well, going back to the Drone Guard series, when we were working on that, I remember going through research and looking at all the existing bags that were out there. And a lot of what was out there were converted Pelican cases with the foam cut interior where people would just cut it specific to their drone. And a lot of people were building drones then, like the DJI flame wheels. DJI was starting to release like the Phantom 1s and Phantom 2s where it's starting to get more like of a consumer product and less of someone just building it at home. There's still some of that today. A lot of that is in the racing scene right now, but as far as the imaging drones, that's sort of, I think, tapered off as far as the smaller imaging drones. A lot of the bigger ones that we can't really make bags for because they're just so massive still require a lot of DIY. Going back to the hydrojet, waterjet cut foam interiors, we knew that was restricting in a lot of ways because you couldn't adapt it to other drones or new parts that you were to get for your drone. So if adding new components, because the space is changing so much, you want to upgrade your drone to be the best drone that it can be.
At the time, what kind of drone experience did you have?
I got started on a little tiny Sima X1 kind of $30 drone thing as a fun way to fly around and really play with my cousins and nephews and stuff. And Ian came on here at LowePro and gave him a little Estes Proto X or something like that, not as a joke so much as like a fun welcome gift. And he just took off with it. He went from there straight into a little 110 and he got me hooked on that. So I've kind of been in that same space. I did a quick mod to Horizon Hobbies drone to put it on a different frame so it wasn't in that sort of injection molded plastic frame that it came in. But after that, I kind of stopped with the builds and rebuilds and upgrades aside from fixing things that after I break, which is, embarrassingly frequent, although those little drones are really, really tough. One of the immediate discoveries for me watching Ian grow through drone after drone was how from one week to the next, it looked like a completely different machine, and the kit was always changing. And the idea that you could have a fixed bag that wouldn't adapt to that was wrong for us. And because we could make things that adapt, we started to do that. But we also figured out there are ways to make bags that are easy to adapt. You don't have to actually have the industrial sewing machine and the 3D modeling and the cutting machine to build.
So can we modify the bag to accommodate different drones or supplies?
Absolutely, yeah.
Describe how that might work.
The case itself, the Drone Guard cases, they're large boxes, and then they have what we call Drone Guard dividers, which are these foldable dividers that have, we call it hook tape. It's just like a Velcro. The lining of the case is the opposite side of the Velcro tape. So you can basically stick these dividers in any orientation, anywhere inside the box. So you can wrap your specific drone's shape, whether it's a Y or an X or an H frame, any type of frame. Basically, you can wrap the shape, and it will hug that drone shape and keep it in place inside the case.
Is that a solution that came out of your own personal drone experience? Yep.
That was all LowePro's.
The divider systems were an evolution of the kind of divider systems that we've used in photo for a long time. And, as you can imagine, a professional camera and some fast glass is pretty heavy. And we're set up to carry a lot of stuff really safely and really adaptively that way. I would even say that's sort of just the beginning of how this works so well for the drones, because Ian has included some special new divider systems that are better for taking care of your transmitter, and particularly making sure that your transmitter and all the little finer controls on there are well protected. There's a nice big pad that's shaped just right for your transmitter and controls to keep that in place. And the bags are all really well zoned. So there's a place that's perfect for your drone, but that means that it's going to work for a lot of different frame shapes, as Ian's noted. And then there's lots of space for batteries. We've thought about how you carry propellers and even how you carry your broken prop, all the little tools that you have to have with you, all that stuff, everything has its own place. It might even be worth at this point kind of talking about, we started to think about all the ways that we use these machines. Sometimes we're just jumping out of a car, finding a little picnic table and flying in a park, and other times we're hiking in a little bit. And there's different bags for those different situations. So we've got 2 backpacks. One is really sized to carry a single drone inside, and then the second one is set up so that it can carry a second drone on the Ian, help me out here. How do we size the 2 backpacks?
The BPX-1 can carry a drone on the inside with the propellers attached, and then the BPX-1 will carry a drone on the exterior, keeping all your components on the inside. And that's for the Quad Guard series, the one that's specific to racing drones. The drones themselves are more or less indestructible because you're flying them so fast, and you're flying through a parking garage and it flies into like a concrete pillar, and you can just brush it off and keep flying. So keeping the racing drones protected wasn't so much a priority as just keeping it organized or having it easily accessible on the bag, but keeping all the other components like your transmitter and your FPV goggles and the batteries all protected inside the bag was more of the highlight of protection for that series. Because, the batteries are really sensitive. If you don't take care of them, they are known to catch fire. And then your FPV goggles are very expensive, so you want to keep those protected. And the transmitter is what talks to the drone, so that has to be in perfect running order so that your drone is the fastest or running as smooth as you flew it the day before.
Did you attempt to get some feedback from other drone pilots or user groups while you were designing the bag?
Yeah, sure. We're lucky that we're in a place, we're just north of San Francisco, which is a really big tech giant. And so I think a lot of people that are in this area are really into RC because it's the next space that's closest to San Francisco where you can actually fly drones, because you can't really fly these racing drones like in the city or winged aircrafts in the city. So the next place that they would go is basically up here. So we're lucky enough that there was a pretty large community of pilots up here that we could just meet up with and give them bags. And I have a few guys that are just still using the bags that I gave them a month or 2 ago, still sending me emails and photos how they've rearranged it and trying to figure out the best way to carry everything. Yeah, it's been really cool to see the kind of things that people come up with when you just give them something and tell them to have fun with it.
What kind of feedback did you get from the local community?
A lot of it's just the gear. I think with the racing space, not so much the gear required to build the drones, but like a chair. Just simply having like a place to sit when you fly FPV. A year ago, nobody was really doing that. It wasn't really there yet. So it's been kind of in this transitional period, which also adds another element to the design process, trying to keep up and stay one step ahead of an already really fast-paced sport or industry.
Even as Ian got into the design process here with the bags, you started out, you didn't have a ground station when we were first flying here, and then suddenly, sort of halfway through the design process, we had this big piece of kit that was added to the system, and we're lucky that we were working on an adaptive system because it fits in great in the side pocket, and all the gear fits inside, no problem.
And now the receivers are getting small enough where you don't need it anymore. I like the fact that how fast the space is moving. It's pretty exciting.
Is the bag designed to accommodate the changes that you talked about?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's even adaptive in your day-to-day use. So I was talking a little bit about the backpacks being set up for one situation to sort of hike in, but we've also got a kit and a couple of cases that are part of the series. So the kit is this awesome little setup where it's 2 cases that are side by side, and you can set it down a table or the ground or wherever you want to be and sort of fold it out, and it presents everything to you as it would be sort of at a workbench. So it's kind of this mobile space that you can take with you. If you find that your backpack kit isn't quite the right kit for a given day, the Quad Guard kit might be the right place to go. And that was just something that we observed with all these people out in the field working, again, like we say, in different ways. Some guys just jumping out of the cars, and other guys wanted to go a little bit further, and even us day to day here in the office.
Now, you guys came up with several different types of bags. Can you talk about the bags and the differences between them?
Yeah, let me give a quick rundown of what the series looks like. So we've got a QuadGuard BPX1. Now, that's the smaller of the two backpacks. This will fit your transmitter inside and your drone outside. And we've got the BPX2, which will fit both the transmitter and the drone inside, and it will also carry an outside drone. Both of these have this neat harness system, which is our style of harness system. It's very comfortable to wear all day long. It's going to get you into any place that you want to be in, any kind of trouble that you want to get into. You can go there with this backpack. It's also got a molded exterior on the top front that helps to just protect some of the stuff inside. Obviously, both of these will hold all of your FPV kit. From there, from those two backpacks that are roughly size 1 and a size 1.5, by interior volume, so to speak, you go up to the QuadGuard kit. Now, that's the one that I mentioned is it's like two cases. They actually can separate, so it really is two cases. You can unfold that, set it on the ground, and then the molded fronts of those two cases will open up and present to you on one side your drone and extra parts, and on the other side your transmitter and other parts. And in the mix, you can throw in your FPV goggles, etc. And then the last one of the cases themselves is just the TX case. It's the transmitter case. It's good for your goggles and your transmitter. That one we see as what you use if you want to put that in another bag. Say you're traveling with a bigger duffel or something else, or you're going to have a whole lot of drones and you really are going to be sort of sinking and resinking and crashing drones, and basically it's kind of like a race situation or that kind of situation where you're going to be carrying drones in something bigger. And then the last one is this neat little TX wrap, which is a molded face that goes over the controls on your transmitter to just protect those parts a little bit more. So that's the overall landscape.
Since the bags were released, what's been the initial feedback from customers?
A lot of it's the access story of the backpacks. They call them body side access, where the back panel is basically the main zipper, so the entire bag will just open up and you can get to everything rather than digging through the top of the bag trying to find something at the bottom. You can just lay it down on its face and then unzip one zipper and get to everything basically. And then the TX case and the quad and the kit are really great for, like Luis was saying, if you wanted the TX case to throw into a bag if you're going for like traveling, great for protecting smaller drones like that. And then the kit is more unique in that the two cases are zipped together, which offers like a really big open workspace. So if you get to your spot, you're at like a picnic table or on the ground or something, you can just have it all laid out in front of you and just right there to grab tools or props or extra batteries. So
something that we hear about a lot from users is really in regard to that sort of ground situation that Ian just referred to. This is true for photographers, and we've solved it in a lot of our photo bags too, is the story of, okay, I'm going to arrive at a location and I'm going to use my gear, and whether it's a camera or whether it's a drone, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my bag down. Now, it might be a little bit muddy, it might be a little bit wet, it might be snowy, or whatever the conditions are. The last thing I'm going to do when I leave, or when I go to a slightly different location, is I'm going to pick up that bag and wear it again. And this is the kind of simple thing that it's really easy to overlook. But if I'm setting the bag down on the back of the bag so that I can open the front of the bag, I'm going to be taking all of that mud and dirt on me when I pick up the bag later on. But our backpacks and even the TX kit are set up in a way that the part that touches the ground is the part that's away from your body. So you're not going to pick up all that dirt or grime or whatever and then carry it around with you the rest of the day on, at least not on your clothes. It'll be on the outside of the bag, but it won't be sort of messing you up, which is, to be honest, something that we've been doing in the photo space long enough that I sometimes even forget to mention it. But for someone who's not familiar with those photo solutions, it might be actually a pretty new thing for them.
Going back to the design process, where did the idea for the drone bags come from? Did you guys come up with it after kicking around some ideas, or was it brought to you by the marketing people in response to some external demand?
I don't think there's any doubt in this case. We have different processes for different bags, and some of them do come from feedback from consumers in market, because in established spaces, we've had a lot of people who tell us how to make things better, and we try to listen really hard. In this case, absolutely it came from not even sitting around talking about bags. I think it just happened. I think between myself and Ian and Noah, who's a great colleague here and work on the Joby brand as well, we just needed the bags, and nobody even had any idea that we were going to be selling these things, but we just started making stuff. So yeah, we started out modifying our existing bags because that's just the fastest way to start experimenting. You have a shell and you work out the interiors, but it didn't take long at all before Ian was drawing new stuff and we were sort of throwing ideas around. I don't know how you exactly remember your process, Ian, but maybe you can kind of remind me. Were you in and out of sketches, or were you straight into mock-ups, or?
Well, yeah, like using existing bags was really the first step in trying to use the gear in those bags. Probably the next step was to sketching, where, started to consider different options, different ways to carry the gear, because, the gear is, some of it's the same as far as the aerial photography gear, but the racing drones require a lot more tools, so we had to take that into consideration, and then lots more batteries, so probably went from sketching to making a 3D model and starting to make prototypes, and then just using it a ton, doing quick little hacks on the mock-up and then throwing that out and making a new one.
Do you have any stories of a personal drone need or a flying experience that resulted in a design feature in the bags?
Well, I think the TX wrap is probably the best example of that. I don't know how many times I've seen in YouTube videos or like blog posts of people putting 3D printing like little caps to over the gimbals on their transmitters, or like 2 rolls of electrical tape to protect them. Like people just thinking of the quickest way to protect those inside their bag. And after seeing that so many times, it was just like, well, we just got to make that. So then we just made it. That one was probably the most logical for the space. And it was just an easy step for us to do it.
Are there other common challenges that drone operators face that you feel you solved in the design of these bags?
I think we've got the workstation pretty well covered here. It's something that's pretty easy to overlook if you're just making bags with I'm going to carry my stuff here or there mentality. The idea that it's rare for me, or really any of us have seen, to fly without having to make some kind of repair inside of the first 20 minutes of flying. So the idea that you're going to show up and everything's going to work perfectly and you're just going to take things out of the bag and go and then you're going to be done we've almost never encountered that. And something that we quickly started to develop was the idea that all these bags have some place that's pretty good for keeping track of some of those little nuts, setting out props and putting out your antenna and different things so that you can sort of look at your stuff and set it up nice. I haven't seen anybody soldering in the field, but I guess you could bring one of those portable solders and do that. But for the most part, it's sort of the more mechanical repairs. But we definitely want to be sure that we took care of that. And I'd say we did a pretty good job making sure kits have got it. And the backpacks have got a nice space where you can sort of set your stuff down and look at it. I'm pretty proud of that aspect of the bags, and I think it's really unique to the drone space. It's not like other things.
How did your drone flying evolve?
It started with the little drone that Luis gave me my first day, and flying it line of sight, just, around the cubicles. And Luis had the same exact one, so we would sort of try to collide into each other or fly around something and do some little obstacle course. And that was just a lot of fun. And then as the more research I did into just what was happening in the drone space, I fell into the FPV scene and seeing Sharpoo, one of the more like viral video pilots on YouTube, seeing one of his videos, and then just saw that and was like, wow, this looks like a lot of fun. And then basically from there, just binge watched YouTube to figure out how I could make one, because that's all you can really do. There's no real instructions for making the drones, so a lot of it is, I guess, taught by YouTube or self-taught or going to your hobby shop if you're lucky enough to be close to someone who's done it before. And then I think the feeling of just flying in first-person view is really exciting, because it is sort of like a lucid dream where you're flying through the air. I don't really know how else to explain it, but you can go anywhere you want to within the range of your drone.
As a result of designing these bags, What did you learn about the drone space that you didn't know before you started?
What I've learned the most, I think, with the drone space in particular, is that as soon as you think that you understand where it is, that's when it's going to change on you. So we're still in a really adaptive mode. I think we need to be really open to change and really aware of how people are flying differently, how regulations change, how the kits change. And Ian's just talking about things getting smaller, and I'm going to have to go and sit with him later on and talk about which parts are getting smaller and how are they getting smaller, just so that I continue to understand, because I'm less of a builder. I sort of stuck with a kit and I love it. I have a little less time for it, but that's the other thing, is people spend so much time, and it's such an exciting field for that reason, for all of the change and all the ways people are bringing their ideas to it.
That's it for episode 65 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Luis Quehl and Ian Hughes of LowePro and learning how they came up with the idea for a new product line of drone carrying bags. If you want more information on the LowePro bags, check out the website at lowepro.com. You can also find Luis and Ian on Twitter or LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review on iTunes. It really does help. And as always, I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research, and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.